Did it tell you it's recording?
Yes.
Okay.
I said,
Well, it says you're Amanda Helton today, Michelle.
again, just like last time. Hang on, let me get this. Okay.
I remember when during COVID, my kids would use, my Zoom account for different things, and so I'd go on to work things, and it would say Emily Wilkie,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So how are you today?
Good. I have one other funny comment. When I get onto court sometimes, Zoom court, and I'm Amanda Helton, get nervous that they're not gonna let me in, because I'm like, I promise it's me, and it won't let me change it until you get let in. It's so weird. Anyways, great. Things are going well over here.
Yeah.
How are they going there?
Good. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's kind of a dreary day. I know you don't get out much with your broken foot, but you're not missing anything today.
Okay, good. A nap. That's what I'm missing, a nap.
A nap, yes. Aren't we all? Well, today we get to officially launch into working towards the goals and objectives that we set last time. So that's exciting.
That is exciting. I have my notes.
Of course you do. Any 911s before we dive in?
Think of any today.
Okay. Well, obviously you can always stop me if there are, but so let me get this up here, just so we can remind one another of the things that we kind of agreed upon last time for your objectives. But what I have kind of written down, and I know I haven't sent you the summary yet of the development plan, but I'll get that to you, and it'll be even more, I think, impactful today after we have this session.
Great.
Okay, so the first one that we talked about was your process and systems objective. We'll call it that for now.
Yeah.
The second one was your personal growth in the area of emotional intelligence. And then, of course, we have your third private goal, which is really just to assess, career, whether you are where you want to be, or if you want to make a change, or at least explore making a change. And for today, we'll probably only have time to really get into one area. Where do you have the most excitement about starting?
Number one.
I was gonna guess.
Right.
So tell me a little bit about why. Oh yeah.
Unless think that there's better homework that I could work on. I don't know. I feel like you tell me which one to start on.
Well, what?
I feel like I could do a lot on both, so I guess it doesn't really matter. But we could do one.
Yeah, I like starting on number one. I agree with you on that. I think that it's probably your biggest obstacle in the way of even the second one. So, and I think to your question about homework, I think I can provide you with some pre-work before we get into the conversation about emotional intelligence. That would be helpful to have that done first, which would just be we could even, get an assessment and kind of talk through that next time. So that way it gives us some room to do that. So yeah, I think number one's great.
Okay.
So let's revisit, why is this important to you?
I think my list I wrote underneath it, the bottom of the list was to have more balance and control, and to be efficient and effective. It's going to be important to figure out my ways of communication, have them more structured and organized, and have systems in place. So why is that important? I guess to feel the balance and control and to feel efficient and effective, I need these systems and communication things in place.
Was there a time when you felt that you had balance and control?
Not in this role. like as a dietitian. Yes,
And how long have you been in the role again?
a good question. 3 years.
Okay. So is that right? Yeah. You think about it.
Yeah, I'm like beginning of COVID. So like, yeah, it was 2020, I think, right? COVID was 2020.
Yep.
2019, yeah, 2019 going 2020. So yeah.
So 3 years. So yeah, what does it feel like to have lived these 3 years in this role without balance and control?
It has felt, well, I don't know if this is a feeling, but like I'm, I was going to use like all my fires and my reprioritization, but hang on, it felt, well, I feel like it doesn't feel natural to me just because I am structured and organized. I feel like I've been kind of grasping at things to make more sense of my role, but haven't then put in some of these like processes that I know need to be there. But it's almost like I probably couldn't have even gotten there without having to like get a better understanding, or even like I know we talked about last time about like this division of responsibility. It's like I had to figure that out. I had to I had to like ask everyone to come to this meeting and help create these lists of division of responsibility. So like that allows me to then hopefully be able to move forward. So I feel like some of it has been done, but then some of it has just been like, I want to fix what I can fix right now, and things keep on changing. And so I just roll with it and do what I can.
And when you said that, I mean, it almost sounded like you really couldn't have done it before now because you wouldn't have had a grasp on what all, like the enormity of it and kind of the systems limitations of people. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah. Unless I guess some of it was done before. Like it's just been, it's so much of it is not done, but I don't know how much of it I could have done without like coming in, and I don't know, maybe. I mean, some of it, I'm like, maybe it would have been good to come in and develop some of this stuff, but there's just been so much change and like so much, I don't know. But I've really answered your question.
Yeah.
Do I need to summarize?
No, I think that, and I think that that's a good headspace to be in, that this is timely, not behind. Because I bet in the midst of your day, you could probably feel like I should have done this already, I'm behind. But that you've been gaining the necessary knowledge and experience in order to make this happen. So, you're typically a very positive person, but just to keep it in that area of like, okay, it's the right time, let's do this. And now it'll just make it what's already good even better.
Yeah. I like that.
Okay, good. So, you mentioned last time that you have had this division of labor conversation. And one of the questions, I know that you did take on one of the person's responsibilities because they left. Of the other 2 remaining people, is there work on your plate that you have taken from them too?
The work I've taken from them too. I share some of the things, like with one of the lead dietitians, we co-create our cross cover calendar, which is like putting dietitians in where other dietitians are off. If she has been off, or if she's taking on more staffing responsibilities, then the co-creation becomes the I creation, and she'll review it. But we used to like get to sit down together and create it together and feel like we could have like checks and balances. And then I'll have to look to see like where Amanda and I's crossover is, because there's a lot of things that we do say like, oh, that's on both of our lists, that maybe it would be nice. And I think some of them we just said like, you're number one and I'm back up to you on this, or like I'm number one and you're back up to me on this. And some of them have been defined, but I could probably look at those lists and try to figure out, do I need to kind of like push out some of the things that were on their list that have like crept over maybe?
Okay, that's good. Yeah, we should talk about that as we kind of think through what are some takeaways today for sure. A question about that whole backup idea. Just wanted to hear from you. When you are the backup, do you feel any sense of responsibility for it if you haven't been asked?
Sense of responsibility if I haven't been asked. I thought you were going to say, do I feel some responsibility if it doesn't get done?
Well,
because
that also is the other question. Yes.
Yeah. So if I haven't been asked, do I feel the responsibility if I haven't been asked? Is that what you said?
Yes. So
I guess, yes. Oh. So if I'm an equal, if I'm a co-creator, yes. If I'm backup, I think my responsibility is more of a communication thing, and that I feel a sense of responsibility. I want to know that I'm going to be responsible for it before it's like too late. And so like I might start having the questions of, because I'm backup, let me go ahead and assume that responsibility and ask you if you're going to need me to do that, because I don't want to be told when I only have this many more minutes. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So like an example, safety meeting at 9:05 every day. Directors and managers, one person from the department has to be on this meeting. And Amanda was sick this week, Monday and Tuesday. I was on the call on Monday. Tuesday at 8:50, I was like, just checking on you, because she hadn't asked me to do it yet. I did it the day before. And so I was just like, I guess I feel like I kind of need to check in with her. And she's like, oh yeah, if you could do that, that'd be great. And I was thinking, like, my personality is like, maybe last night you could have said, hey, I'm probably not going to be at work tomorrow, could you do it? So it's like I feel the responsibility in like to structure and organize my day that I'm not even doing a great job at, but I feel like it could become my responsibility, so I'm going to go ahead and make it my responsibility. Does that make sense?
Great example. Can I ask a clarifying question about that example?
Yes.
If on the first day, did she ask you to cover it when she was out sick?
I kind of think that maybe as we were talking and she was there, I might have inserted myself and said, so does this mean you need me to do? And asked that as one of the things.
So on items like that, what's another alternative? Can you think of another alternative?
Ask her.
Do what?
Like, what do you need me to ask her? What do you need me to do? And let it be hers to give to me.
Okay, that's great. What is another one?
Set up when you're not there. These are the things you need me to take. That's kind of hard because that changes all the time. But like, I need, or have something that's like, hey, if you're not going to be there as soon as you know that you're not going to be there, can you go ahead and send me whatever it is you're going to need me to do?
And are you saying that that's like maybe a more of a like a conversation that's kind of setting that up for ongoing rather than like in the moment, right?
Yeah. Like, hey, in the future, if you're not here, can we like have a mutual, this is what I need to communicate with you if I'm not going to be there, just so I know like what's my responsibility when you're, like, here's a great example. Today's her last day. She's going to be off Friday and then through Thursday next week. I've had zero expectations shared with me of what I'm going to be covering for her.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I've asked a few things I need from her in emails today. There's like, hey, by the end of the day, could you XYZ, a few things. But there's been nothing communicated to me.
And,
So
and
what I'm,
Mhm.
oh, go ahead.
Are there things that already come to mind that you know need coverage and she hasn't asked or laid that out?
Like the department phone, that's a cell phone. Like she'll probably stop by and drop off the phone at whenever, I don't know, and say like, oh, here's the department phone. Yeah,
What
that's one
what would
thing.
what would be optimal for you in that in the backup scenario we're talking about right now, the items that are on your list where you're number two, and your
Mhm.
backup, what would be the optimal setup for you in terms of how those things are expected and carried out and covered?
Um, I guess the two things are like timely, having it before it's gonna burn on fire. So like having, and to me, I guess timely is like as much as possible, right? The day before notice is ideal. But if you knew you're going to be out for this long, there's some things leading up to that you could probably send me. Like, I'm going to need you to do these things. And then I know that some things you're going to get contacted. Like, she'll get contacted while she's off for something, and then it'll be a quick phone call and I can take care of it. Like, I feel like there's some flexibility and understanding and lots of that. But then some of those other things, it would just be really nice to have, like an email or a previous conversation that's like, when I'm out and it's on the calendar, you can just go ahead and assume that this will be your role.
Okay.
And if she knows that I can't do it, that she's going to take care of it. Because if her and I are both in a meeting, I'm the one that's like, hey, what's going to be our plan? Like, should this be our plan? Instead of me just being like, well, she knows that we're both not going to be there. Can she take care of that? Instead, it turns into, I feel like I need to take care of it.
Mhm.
So,
So you what?
so we need to have conversations about that, I guess, like just communication.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you've kind of just laid out a really great, I refer to that as a boundary conversation.
Yeah.
Where, and I think maybe as you were talking, you could take a look at the delegated lists that you have and which things that you're serving as backup for the other two folks on. And I think that's a good place to start and say, um, I think you're wired, as you said, for responsibility and you want to ensure that things are getting done well. But I think having a boundary conversation that you just described, which is if I'm you and you're Amanda and or your other lead, and just to say, hey, I was reviewing the distribution of labor that we talked about before, and I just wanted to go. I felt like we needed to have a clarifying conversation now that we've kind of getting more settled into this distribution. The things that are listed on your list that I'm back up for, I just wanted to let you know that I'm genuinely thinking of you as primary on those. And so there's a couple scenarios that have come up and, where maybe we're both going to be in a meeting and that item still needs to take care of. I'm going to live under the assumption that you are going to be the one either attending that other thing or communicating to me. Does that work for you? And then being able to also just say, and we could also make the assumption, Amanda, that if you are going to be off, that I would cover that. I would know that if you're on vacation, that's my responsibility as your backup. And otherwise, if there's one-offs because of some conflict that you have, I know that a lot of times I end up asking you if you need me to cover it. I really feel like I probably need to just let you tell me when you need me to cover it. And I'll assume that it's your responsibility until then. And so what you start to do is free yourself up from carrying the responsibility. And if the ball gets dropped after that conversation, that's not on you. How's that feel?
Yeah, I think it's timely in that I feel like that's an interesting conversation for me to need to have with my leader. Like, I think I've been waiting for her to put some language to this. And I feel like there's a lot of things that I'm already viewed as more of the leader. And so I'm really careful in my language, and even making the meeting we talked about last time, like, oh, maybe I'll make the meeting for us to go over these things with her because we don't have one-on-one meetings. Like, when I started my role, I set up those meetings like, oh, can we please have one-on-ones? And then for whatever reasons, they kept on getting canceled. And so we just kind of stopped. And I was like, if you have feedback, like I just know I'm always ready to hear it. And so I think that's where I have had a hard time figuring out. I don't want to be coming off as too much of the, I don't know what the word is, like I don't want to be like, I feel like I'm coming to her as the director almost by coming to her and being like, okay, so this is what's yours and this is what's mine. And this is like, I don't want to be talking down to her. And so I feel like back to my emotional intelligence, I know that some of the conversations need to happen, but I already feel like regardless of how it's said, that is weird, that the superior is coming to in several of these situations. And so now I need some emotional intelligence for like the best way to have those conversations with somebody who's not going to respond in a very emotional, intelligent way also.
How do you suspect she'll respond?
She'll start by being defensive. Like I'm not accusing her of anything. I understand like, hey, moving forward, can we do it this way? It'll be like, there'll be excuses and like deflection of why something has happened. Like, and we get caught up in that versus just, I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm not, just moving forward. I want this to be, I never come away feeling like it was clearly received or we like landed on the same page. It's like, okay, that just made things.
And I mean, I think we have to lead up and down and across the organization, right? 360 leadership. I think it happens, but I think it's fair what you're asking, and I think we can kind of role play that conversation. And I think one of the kind of mentalities or whatever that you can take into a conversation like that is not being necessarily instructive, but you could go in and position yourself as needing help from her. And so if you shift, like, which is true, you're needing help because you are having a difficult time prioritizing and accomplishing.
Well, that's hard, right? I'm having a difficult time. I want to say, I'm not having a difficult time. It annoys me and frustrates me. I get it done, but so I think that's hard for me to say, I'm having a difficult time doing this. It's like, well, it's getting done, so then that's where it's like, I don't know, am I having a hard time? I don't know, you annoy me and frustrate me when you call me 5 minutes before and you ask me to do this.
Well,
I'm not going to do that.
Let's define difficult as an emotional thing rather than difficult as a functional thing. Are you capable? Absolutely. Is it difficult for you emotionally to have to live in that setup?
Yeah, but I don't like that.
Well, tell me more about that. Why don't you like that? Tell me more about that.
Because I don't know. I think I define difficult as still able to do it so I can move on. Like I don't like to say what's difficult. I don't know.
Why? What's important about being able to do something for you?
That it gets done.
But
that's good.
It seems like it's probably more than that because it could get done by somebody else. But what is it because what I hear you saying is if I say that, I feels like I'm saying I'm incapable.
Yes.
And what does that do to you? What does that?
Well, I'm not incapable. I can do it. Yeah, so I feel like I'm saying I'm incapable of doing it, but it's not that I'm incapable of doing it. It's that it just drives me crazy. So I don't want her to hear me say I can't do it. I'm incapable of doing it.
Why?
Because I can do it.
Okay, but why does that matter?
I think to me, it's like if it's something that I am incapable of doing, I'm happy to say I can't do this. This is bad. You know what I mean? Like but if it's something I can do, then I can do it. I don't want you to think differently.
So let's think about a different word then. If it's not that you're incapable of doing it, right? But like,
Yeah.
do you feel successful with the work that's on your plate right now? Do you feel balanced and in control?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So incapable of doing it with balance and control?
Yeah. So in putting it in that light, I could do it. With all these things, it's like this conversation needs to happen. And for me to feel balanced and in control, I need to know these things outside of the 5-minute warning. Yeah.
Yeah. So your goal and objective is balance and control.
Yeah.
And you're incapable of living that way professionally in your role without some clarity, without and recognizing that it could be a
Clarity
change.
on both.
Yeah. And also that it could be something in you that's driving this, not her. Like, one of the things that's really important about boundaries is the only person that can can allow your boundary to be crossed is you.
Right.
And so regaining control of your boundary doesn't mean telling her what to do. It doesn't have to mean admitting you're incapable of doing the work that you could do this body of work. But if you want to have balance and control and be effective and efficient in your work, then you are incapable of doing all of it. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
So I think so talking about balance and control, and I'm incapable without clarity. I feel like to any other boss, like the word clarity wouldn't need to be explained. For her, I feel like I have to say clarity, like that I might have clouded. Like I need to have this conversation because quickly everything is very like I'm accusing her of not being clear, which she hasn't been clear. But at the same time, it's like I want to make sure because I have a clarifying question. I just want to make sure I'm understanding whatever the situation is. But I just feel like anything that could potentially be said negative of her is always a whole story. And I have a really emotionally intelligent, hard time navigating that.
So what would it look like in an alternative not to have a conversation with her, but to just hold the boundary? Like
that's like putting a fence there without telling somebody there's a fence.
Well,
right?
They learn quickly that there is, right? And so if she hasn't asked you to be on a call, then you don't ask her.
Yeah.
Like, you're the one that's stepping over the boundary right now and asking her, right? So like, what would it look like to just not ask and wait to be, and that might mean, right, that she's asking you in an untimely fashion. And if she does that and you're not able to, you can say, oh, I'm really sorry. I'm not able to get on that right now. I'm blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Or in addition to that, or maybe in contrast to that, if you are available, you can say, I'd be happy to, you jump on it. But then after there's some consecutive examples of that, say, hey, would you mind, I'm sure there's going to be exceptions, but would you mind when we get to that, could you give me more of a heads up? I'm having to shuffle, or, something like that. Then you can kind of practice that. But, you already said, I make the assumption fairly that when she's not there, I should be on that call. So if she's going to be out sick, or if she's going to be out on vacation, excuse me, I don't even need her to ask. Don't even need to ask her. I'll just be on that call.
Right.
We're using this
so you're saying the boundary, or I need to hold the boundary. So I can decide maybe in several of these situations, like, does that boundary need to be placed, like in a conversation or however it needs to be communicated, or is it something I can just start holding, and then if a conversation needs to happen?
Because it sounds like based on what you've said, like having the conversation's not going to be very productive, and that she's, based on your previous experience. And so if you just start living it out, and if she addresses it and says, hey, why aren't you getting on that call, or what, whatever, I really needed you to get on that call, and just say, I'm really, you will be able to say, well, I don't plan for that as my normal responsibility, because, I consider you primary and me backup based on our previous arrangement. And so I'm happy to be your backup. I can't always drop whatever I'm doing to do that when you don't provide notice. If you could give me 24 hours notice, I probably can arrange things, and I'm happy to be your backup. So I'm thinking, based on what you said, maybe just starting to set the boundary, even by one small thing. What if you just don't ask? And if you don't know it's going to get covered, and you're both in that meeting, like you described, it's not on you. And if she's going to be out, it is on you. Being a good partner to her, but also not enabling her.
How
does that feel?
Great.
Okay. And that's going to translate, I'm sure, to other things. We only talked about the backups, right? You need to think about all the different backups and how that kind of, that behavior of yours to over-own maybe at play. And that might be true for not just Amanda, but your other lead too.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, thinking about my other lead, I'm like, yeah, it happens so naturally with us. Like, her and I will say something that's like, hey, this is going on. I'll take this and own it. Don't worry about it. I'll email it to you. You can just review it. Done. There's some kind of communication that happens at a normal time, but then it made me think too, maybe I need to ask her, I think it's a normal time. Wonder if she doesn't think it's a normal time, right? That conversation that's like, hey, we kind of switch off. We used to co-do this together, but sometimes you're taking it, sometimes I'm taking it. We have communication. I feel like it's going well, but is that going well for you too?
That'd be great. Think about if you received that from your boss, how that would feel.
Yeah. Yes.
So
yes, I'm just acting that.
I think that's a great, I think that is a great, a great step to take. What's that person's name, so I can call them by their who?
Allison.
Allison. Okay. So Allison, I think
on that 360 feedback, maybe.
Oh yeah. What's her last name?
Clayton.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Now
clicks with you, right? Yeah.
I just remember the names, yeah. So I think that, I think that's a great conversation to have with Allison, just to check in, and also just assess before you talk to her. What are the things that you guys are co-owning? Because you just mentioned the coverage calendar, but are the other things going as well? And also I would, okay, so before we go into this, I'll just say we're at the end of our time. So I know it went really fast. I know. But I think we have some good takeaway homework on these. So how do you feel about this homework? The first one is to hold your boundary on the areas that you are backup, not meaning that you don't assume responsibility, except when it's appropriate, which is when somebody's on vacation, that kind of thing. That's an assumption, right? Or sick. And then you don't even have to ask them. You just jump in and do it, because you're working on the assumption. We already agreed I am the backup. I know that they're out, so I will do. But otherwise, I will not do, and I will not ask. And if they ask me, I will try to be a good partner to them without having to turn my whole life upside down. Because I can still say, oh, I would love to help. I'm this. If you really can't. If you're sitting in your office working on something, obviously you can. But if you're in a other meeting, you may not be able to drop that. So.
Right. Okay.
And if that boundary continues to be pushed up against in terms of the timeliness of it, then you can have that conversation of, hey, I've noticed you've needed me more on that call. I'd love to be a good partner to you. Yeah. I think the thing that would help me be able to say yes more often is if you gave me a little bit more of a heads up. And I know sometimes you won't know it, but if that's feasible, I would. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Second thing is to review, and that's the same thing with Allison too. Just look at the backups on that. And then
Yeah.
on the co-create or the co-share, whatever you call it,
Yeah.
on those, evaluate, are they going well with Allison from your point of view? And do they kind of organically happen? Kind of take a look at, do I tend to be the one that owns it more often though? Because I would have that curiosity about you with your tendency to do and to accomplish and take responsibility. And so you don't want to go in saying it's going great for me when really you realize, oh, that's because I'm doing it 90% of the time. So just make sure before you have that conversation that's all valid. If you are typically owning it, but you don't feel a certain way about it, the other thing I would say is be curious about why the dynamic between you and Allison may be different than you and Amanda. And look for what's working and is it feasible to apply that here. And if not, that's okay, but that's a consideration. But I do think clarifying with Allison's great.
Yeah. Okay.
And so that really is just on the backups and the other things, is to hold your boundary.
Yeah. Homework.
Some good homework. And then I would say one other thing that might be helpful for us for the next conversation is to look at those delegation sheets, and see if there's anything that aren't backups that are actually assigned that you're doing the same thing on, that you're over owning. Even though it is somebody else's primary responsibility, because the first way to clear your deck is to stop owning things that aren't yours, right? Just feel like those automatically drop to lower tier. Like they're either not on mine or they're down here. And then I think you talked about it before, but because from that place, we can then talk about one of your not fears, but needs is probably to make sure that that's communicated out to other people so that they're aware. Like the reason I'm not doing this is because it's not mine, right? Like you don't have to say that.
Yeah.
So that'll be helpful for next time we'll look at.
Yeah. So one quick thing that would be like a big question would be, and this is where we need more probably structure and help with things, is that like some of the things we have had Amanda keep so that I don't end up with all of it. But in having her keep some things, it affects what I can do. So example is, she knows some computer system where we get all of our applicants, because our recruiting people will filter if they're even qualified before they send it to this place. And then Amanda can move them from like they've applied to their interviewing to dumping them or whatever. She can do all that. As well as once we hire them, she can do all this background stuff, like assign them their email, assign them their this and that and the other. That's like a lot of computery stuff that she's done forever and I haven't done. Could I do it? Yes, it's another thing to add. But so right now I'm trying to hire and I'm like, are there other resumes that are out there and they're getting all like misorganized? She's like, oh, I forgot to send you this one from here. And then I've got recruiting asking me about something else. And so because I don't have that, I'm feeling unbalanced and unorganized because I don't have somewhere where I can just go and be like, this is where they are. This is how I'm setting up interviews. So that it is that shared responsibility. But the reason I haven't asked for more is because that is me putting even more on my plate. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And same with assignment, like she could probably sit at her desk almost as every new hire needs to have all this stuff assigned in this system and blah, 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 blah. And that is kind of more of her, like if I'm doing all my positive things I love about her, she's great at it. She loves it. Fabulous. I could care less to learn it. That's helpful for me. But then they're technically under her until we switch them over. So then that causes other issues with like communication. So it's like some things I want to do more black and white, but then I'm like, that's hard. So, and I know we're way over time, but it might be like, okay, to make that feel more structured, is there something else that, you know,
let's, I think that would be a great thing for us to talk through next time.
Yeah.
So, and it's those areas and areas where she owns it, but is an obstacle, to you moving, I guess, kind of at the pace, that your needs are needing, right?
Yeah. And that could be next conversation, because that's majority of it, right? Staff meeting, the way I can communicate is trumped by her saying we're sharing it, and then I only have 15 minutes. So it's like, what areas of things can we divide? Should we not be dividing?
Mm.
Because I'm feeling very unorganized and unbalanced because I'm trying to figure out how to work with oil and water.
Yeah. Okay, those are great questions. Let's talk about that next time, because you're right. It's all the areas that she kind of owns and or is inflexible of changing from what you've said before about like staff meeting.
Yeah.
And that limits you if you know, especially if you approach it the way you've been approaching it. So, and
Yes.
what's within your realm of control to influence or change that? Yeah.
Yes. So but I got plenty of homework. No need to address that yet. So you can save that for next.
Okay. Well, this is really productive. How do you feel about kind of the conversation we've had today and the stuff we've kind of brought to the surface?
I feel great because I have an action plan of things I can do. And I feel like the things that I can do will like start some of this working towards the goal, right? So it's like having these conversations, and it's like a little piece that doesn't feel like overwhelming. It's like, this is a little start, and like it feels doable, not overwhelming. And that feels great to me.
Good. Well, you did the work, so great job. And I'll look forward to hearing about your homework next time.
Okay. Do I email you stuff, or do I want me to tell you?
No, you're good. We'll talk about it next time. All right, let me push our record. Hold on.